In a small, quiet town nestled between rolling hills, there was a story that touched every heart. A lonely dog, waiting by the same old road, his eyes filled with hope and longing. Every day, rain or shine, he sat there watching, waiting. But for what? And for whom? This is a story of unwavering loyalty, love, and a journey that will leave you in tears. Why would a dog wait for years in the same spot? Was he holding onto a forgotten promise? Or was it something even more heartwarming? Get ready for an inspiring story that will remind you of the incredible bond between humans and animals, one that knows no limits of time or distance. If you believe in love that never fades and loyalty that never wavers, stay with us till the end. This story will make you believe in the power of hope. Subscribe now to hear more heartwarming tales that prove kindness still exists in our world. In the heart of the small town of Willow Creek, life moved at its own peaceful pace. The streets were lined with charming little houses, their gardens blooming with colorful flowers. Children laughed and played, and neighbors greeted each other with warm smiles. But among all the cheerful sights, one stood out. A lone dog, sitting patiently by the old oak tree near the town's entrance. The dog, a scruffy golden retriever with a thick, unkempt coat, sat with his ears perked up and his eyes locked onto the road ahead. His name was Buddy. No one knew where he came from, but he had been there for as long as anyone could remember. Whether the sun blazed down or the snowflakes fell gently around him, Buddy remained in his spot, watching, waiting. People in the town had grown used to his presence. At first they were curious. They offered him food, tried to call him over, even set up a cozy little shelter nearby. But Buddy never left his place. He would politely wag his tail, accept a bite or two, and then return to his silent vigil, staring down the empty road as if expecting someone special to come back. "Poor thing," whispered Miss Eleanor, the elderly woman who lived closest to the tree. "He must be waiting for someone he loved." Curious children would sit at a distance, watching Buddy in awe. "Do you think he's waiting for his owner?" a little boy asked his sister one afternoon. "Maybe," she replied, her voice filled with wonder. "Or maybe he's waiting for something even more important." Buddy's story soon spread across the town, and everyone had their own version of it. Some believed he had been left behind by a traveling family who promised to return. Others whispered that he had once belonged to a kind old man who never made it back home. But the truth remained a mystery, one that wrapped Buddy in an aura of quiet sadness and hope. Despite all their theories, one thing was certain: Buddy's loyalty was unshakable. His presence became a symbol of patience and love, teaching everyone a silent lesson about devotion. Over time, people began to admire him, leaving small gifts, bowls of fresh water, and cozy blankets near his spot. Yet, Buddy remained unfazed, his heart still fixed on the road. The seasons changed, and the town of Willow Creek continued with its routine. But Buddy's eyes never lost their sparkle of hope. There was something deeper behind his gaze, something that kept him coming back to that same spot day after day. But the question remained: who or what was he waiting for? Stay with us as we uncover the touching truth behind Buddy's silent vigil. Don't forget to like and share the story with someone who believes in unconditional love. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. No matter the weather, Buddy remained at his spot, staring down the road with unwavering hope. The people of Willow Creek grew fond of him, but their hearts ached for the lonely dog. They tried everything to help him, offering treats, toys, and warm places to sleep, but nothing could distract him from his silent mission. Miss Eleanor, the elderly woman who lived closest to Buddy's spot, made it her daily routine to check on him. She would bring a bowl of fresh water and some food every morning, gently whispering, "It's okay, boy. Whoever you're waiting for will come back." But deep down, she feared that Buddy's wait would never end. The local children, fascinated by Buddy's story, formed their own Buddy Club. They took turns sitting with him, hoping that their company would ease his loneliness. "Maybe if we wait with him, his person will come back," said little Tommy, his eyes filled with hope. His friends nodded in agreement and sat beside Buddy, whispering stories and stroking his fur. Despite their efforts, Buddy's gaze never wavered. Even when thunderstorms rolled in, and the wind howled through the town, Buddy stood his ground. The sight of him braving the harsh weather brought tears to many eyes. If only we knew who he was waiting for, sighed the local shopkeeper, wiping his eyes as he watched Buddy shiver in the cold. The town's mayor eventually got involved. He ordered a small wooden shelter to be built next to the tree, offering Buddy a warm place to rest. "It's the least we can do," he said. But Buddy, ever loyal, rarely used it. Instead, he continued to sit in the open, eyes fixed on the horizon. As time passed, people began to worry about Buddy's health. He was getting older, his once vibrant golden coat turning dull, and his movements slower. The town vet, Dr. Patel, tried to take him in for a checkup, but Buddy would always return to his spot, as if bound by an invisible promise. Then, one winter evening, something unusual happened. A young woman driving through town slowed down as she passed Buddy's spot. Her eyes widened in shock as she pulled over and stepped out of her car. She walked slowly toward him, her hands trembling. "Buddy," she whispered, her voice cracking. The townsfolk watched in stunned silence. Buddy's ears perked up. His tail, which had long remained still, began to wag slowly. Could it be? Had the moment he'd been waiting for finally arrived? What happens next will leave you speechless. Stay with us to witness a reunion that will warm your heart. Don't forget to share Buddy's incredible journey with your friends. The moment the young woman stepped closer, Buddy's eyes widened. His body, once weary from years of waiting, seemed to tremble with anticipation. He took a hesitant step forward, his tail wagging faster now. His ears perked up as if listening for a voice he had been longing to hear. The woman knelt down, tears brimming in her eyes. "Buddy, is it really you?" she whispered, her voice filled with both hope and guilt. Her trembling hands reached out, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Buddy didn't hesitate. He leaped forward, burying his face into her arms, letting out soft whimpers that spoke of longing, love, and relief all at once. The crowd that had gathered around watched in silence, their eyes wide with disbelief. Miss Eleanor wiped away a tear. "It's her. It has to be," she whispered. The young woman, her hands shaking as she stroked Buddy's fur, turned to the crowd. I'm so sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "I never thought I'd see him again." She looked down at Buddy, who stared up at her with pure love, as if forgiving her for the lost time. Through her tears, she explained her story. Her name was Emily, and Buddy had been her loyal companion since she was a child. Years ago, Emily's family had to move suddenly after a devastating fire took everything they owned. In the chaos, Buddy had gone missing, and they had searched for him endlessly but never found him. "We thought he was gone forever," Emily said, her voice cracking with emotion. "But he never gave up on us. He waited." The crowd listened in awe. Children clung to their parents, their hearts swelling with emotion. Miss Eleanor stepped forward and gently placed a hand on Emily's shoulder. "He's been waiting right here, every single day," she said softly. "We all tried to take care of him, but it was clear his heart was always somewhere else. With you." Emily hugged Buddy tightly, whispering promises to never leave him again. She looked around at the town, touched by how they had taken care of him in her absence. "Thank you, all of you," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "You gave him love when I couldn't." But there was still one question lingering in the air. Would Buddy leave with her? Or had the town become his new home? The crowd held their breath as Emily gently pulled away and said, "Buddy, do you want to come home with me?" For a brief moment, Buddy looked back at the spot he had waited for so long, then turned to Emily. With one joyful bark, he made his choice. The town erupted in applause, tears of joy streaming down their faces. Buddy had finally found what he had been waiting for all along. Home. Stay with us to see how Buddy's journey ends, and what it teaches us about love and loyalty. Like and share to spread his inspiring story. As Emily gently led Buddy toward her car, the entire town watched in silence, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Would Buddy really leave after all these years? Would he finally go home? Buddy paused at the edge of the road, his paws trembling slightly. He turned his head, looking back at the old oak tree where he had spent countless days and nights, waiting, the familiar spot where he'd held on to hope for so long. The townspeople stood with tearful smiles, silently urging him forward. Emily knelt beside him, her voice soft and filled with emotion. "It's okay, boy. You don't have to wait anymore. I'm here now." She stroked his fur gently, her tears falling onto his golden coat. "We can go home together." For a long moment, Buddy seemed to be caught between his past and his future. His eyes, once filled with longing, now shimmered with relief and understanding. Then, with a joyful bark, he wagged his tail and nuzzled into Emily's arms, making his choice. Home was wherever she was. The crowd erupted into cheers, and Miss Eleanor clapped her hands together. "He's finally going home," she whispered, wiping away a tear. The children cheered and ran up to give Buddy one last pat on the head, their eyes filled with admiration for the dog who had taught them so much about loyalty. As Emily opened the car door, Buddy hesitated for just a second. He turned back toward the town one last time, as if saying goodbye, and then hopped inside, curling up comfortably in the passenger seat. Emily smiled through her tears. "We're finally together again, boy." The entire town gathered around, waving as Emily drove away slowly, Buddy's face pressed against the window, his tail still wagging happily. The sight left an emotional imprint on every heart present. As the car disappeared down the road, Miss Eleanor turned to the crowd with a warm smile. "Buddy's story will always stay with us," she said. "He reminded us all of what it means to love without conditions, to never give up hope." The townspeople stood for a long time, staring down the empty road where Buddy had once sat. They felt a bittersweet sense of closure. Their beloved friend was gone, but his story had become a part of their lives forever. Little Tommy looked up at his mother and whispered, "I'm going to miss him." His mother smiled and hugged him tightly. "We all will, sweetheart. But Buddy is finally where he belongs." The town decided to place a small plaque by the oak tree, a tribute to the dog who had taught them the true meaning of loyalty and patience. It read, "In honor of Buddy, the dog who never gave up." But what happens next is even more inspiring. Days passed, and life in Willow Creek slowly returned to normal, but something had changed. The town felt different, warmer. Buddy's unwavering loyalty had left an imprint on everyone's hearts, inspiring them in ways they never expected. Miss Eleanor continued her morning walks by the old oak tree, now marked by a small plaque in Buddy's honor. Each time she passed, she would smile and say, "Good morning, Buddy," as if he were still there, watching over them. Parents used Buddy's story to teach their children about patience and love, reminding them that some things in life are worth waiting for. In the town's small school, Buddy's story became a lesson in kindness and resilience. Teachers spoke of his unwavering dedication, and students wrote essays about what they had learned from him. Buddy never gave up, even when things seemed hopeless, one student wrote. And because of that, he found his family again. Inspired by Buddy's loyalty, the townspeople came together to support local animal shelters, raising funds and adopting abandoned pets. "If Buddy could wait all those years for love," said Miss Eleanor, "then surely we can give love to those still waiting." Emily, overwhelmed by the love and support the town had shown Buddy, made a heartfelt decision. She started an online page dedicated to sharing Buddy's story, and soon, people from all over the country were touched by his tale. Messages poured in, stories of pets reunited with their owners, of lost hope rekindled, and of people inspired to show more compassion. One message stood out. A man who had once lost everything wrote, "Buddy's story reminded me that waiting for the right moment, the right person, is always worth it. I almost gave up, but now I believe again." Buddy's story had become more than just a tale of a loyal dog. It had become a symbol of hope, resilience, and the belief that true love never fades. One afternoon, Emily returned to Willow Creek with Buddy. She brought him to the oak tree one last time. He sniffed the ground, wagged his tail, and then turned to Emily with bright, happy eyes. "Come on, boy," she said. "Let's go home." As they left, a small group of children who had once been part of the Buddy Club gathered around the plaque. They smiled, remembering all the times they had sat with him. "He's happy now," one of them whispered. The plaque under the oak tree remained a reminder for everyone who passed by. It read, "Here waited Buddy, the dog who taught us that love and hope can outlast even the longest of waits." Buddy's story left Willow Creek with a valuable lesson, that loyalty, patience, and love always find their way back home. If Buddy's story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with someone who needs a little hope today.